Hello everyone, this is Richard from Modern Healthspan. The book, The Illusion of Knowledge by Dr. Harold Katcher was launched on September the 4th, 2021 at the Book Passage in San Francisco. The book was published by NTZ, which specializes in the field of rejuvenation. With the consent of NTZ, today we're going to summarize some highlights from the book launch. You can find a link to the recording of the event in the description. Please enjoy.
Thank you very much. My great pleasure to see everyone. This is the first book I ever wrote, so I can't, and it's the first book launch I've ever been to, so I'm not quite so sure of what to do. But let me just give you a little bit of the history or background and why the book was written and what it's about and what it's based on. And it has a real basis, even though this is perhaps a book launch, and I should be real proud of it, and I am. It's not so easy to write a book. What's really important is what the book was based on. And let me just cut it short and tell you that we have managed to reverse aging in rats. We believe we can reverse aging in rats and humans, and dogs, and just about any mammal you can think of. And that's the basis of the book. But the book is more than that. It's kind of a history and philosophy, but altogether, from beginning to end, it's a kind of a narrative that I hope holds your attention throughout. And I write it in a manner such that your educated person can read it. You don't have to be technically competent in molecular biology to read it. But what it does is presents a new theory of aging. And the new theory of aging is based partially on research I've done, and partially on the experimental results we've achieved in our lab at Mumbai. People believe you're composed of trillions of cells. Those cells have a lifespan. They're damaged. When they're damaged, they don't multiply, they can't perform their functions. So first, your cells age and die, and then the tissues that they're composed of are malfunctioning, and then the organs, the tissues compose malfunction, and the organ system, the organism, and that's it. That's us. We die. We're old, we die. It's not the case, because that's what the convoy experiment showed. And it wasn't even realized at the time. There's so many things that aren't realized. Almost every bit of technique I used to develop E5 was in the literature and unnoted. So it was really a question of connecting dots. Let me tell you this, and just put my, quote, theory in a nutshell, in a small nutshell. I'll preface it by one statement noted by several naturalists, that of all the terrestrial vertebrate classes, mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, their maximum age is in most cases an integral multiple of the time from conception to sexual maturity. Yeah. And later on, I explain how Medawar's hypothesis about aging has to be wrong, and everything is based on it. And later on, I say a lot of controversial things. For instance, how modern aging theory is based on Darwin, and actually based on natural selection, even though Darwin himself said that natural selection is not the only mode by which. So really, they've reduced evolution to a cartoon, I remember reading years ago about a paper that showed that aging animals can actually have a higher population density and it was by somebody at MIT, and it was a computer simulation. What was different about this computer simulation? Because nobody else had ever found that. It had 2 dimensions. Something so important as your lifespan can't be based on such nonsense, on basically a cartoon. Yeah, sure, you're using, I'm a programmer, I could easily write a program that, as a matter of fact, there are things called genetic algorithms that do exactly that. So it became very clear to me that aging was programmed, that you're not given a life, you're not given life, you're given a life. You're not born with a bunch of proteins and enzymes floating around, and your life has a definite trajectory, and the trajectory is the same for all mammals. People talk about the shape and the pace of life, and really the only difference between mammals is the pace at which those stages pass. Another thing is that developmental biology ends at young adulthood. You know, you can tell a toddler from a preteen, from a teen, etc., but you can tell a 40-year-old from a 60-year-old, from a 80-year-old as well. So why not just assume these are aging phenotypes? And that's my basic theory. And the role of environment in this is to create damage, because damage is a propelling force in later life that eventually brings you to the state that nature wants you, which is dead. That's because your children, have you any children, are more selected than you are. So it's natural. Well, let me just say to conclude, humankind has gone against nature in a very successful way. We didn't require 1 million years to grow wings in order to fly. We didn't have to wait 100 million years to grow gills and fins in order to plumb the depths of the oceans. Right now, for the first time, I believe, because I think this is more than a book launch, I think this will be a revolution. A revolution in biological science, and eventually when we come up with our mass production techniques, it'll be a revolution in human history. Nothing like this has ever occurred before. Nothing like this was even ever expected. One of the interesting things about this is that the rejuvenation process is not instantaneous. It takes time, and it keeps on developing over and over again. It took how many? About 150 days for us to get those rats. We have young rats and old rats, we have treated rats and untreated rats, and Kavita Singh, our principal investigator in Mumbai, showed us a wonderful picture of all of the young and old rats paired, and in every single case you could tell which was the young rat, which was the treated rat and which was a control rat. So it's quite amazing. Steve Horvath just saw our latest pictures, and he says that's earth-shattering. In a place where there are earthquakes, I'm not sure it's a great phrase. But yeah, so I really think we're looking at a transition in humanity. Akshay originally was disappointed that our rats remained rather large. Now, 90 days after their second treatment, they're no longer so large, and their size, the weight hasn't decreased incredibly, but there's been a redistribution of body tissue. Fat tissue is gone, muscle tissue is there. So, yeah, we were actually talking about doing experiments to find the density of these rats and find out the percentage of fat tissue.
Have you looked at bone marrow stem cells, bone marrow density?
Not yet. No, as I've said before, it seems to me that we've uncovered a couple of peaks of a vast continent, and those happen to be particularly important, valuable peaks. But I think there's a lot else that can be done and that will be done. I think this is the beginning of a new medicine, a real medicine, a medicine that doesn't hurt you but only helps you.
Are you hopeful for yourself?
I'm hopeful for myself. If it doesn't happen, that's okay. I wouldn't be the first soldier to give his life for something of value. And then, no, that's honestly how I feel about it. It appears after second dose that they either age at a lower than normal or at the normal rate. So if you were brought back to 20, you could have another entire adult lifespan, is my feeling, because the epigenetics are just there. The metabolism is there, the biochemistry is there, the physiology is there. So I think you could live several lifetimes. How many? We have no idea, but things look promising at this point. So we know at least 3. Imagine if you could revitalize all of those old people. They jump out of bed and all of a sudden they're skilled at whatever they do, because they have not only the experience, but they have the strength back, the mental acuity back, and they'll just be, and much more knowledge than they ever had. So it'll just be better. We are absolutely working on making it available to everyone. And we have a way of doing it, and that's intellectual property that I can't discuss.